Thank you so much for joining me today as you're entering
Weekend
into your
was
second week of Crimes of the Heart. How was opening
Friday
weekend?
was wrought with all of the typical opening night anxiety, but the audience received it really well. Saturday had us all like, I feel like everybody really locked in. Audiences received it really well, engaged, and yeah, it feels very successful.
So, what is the anxiety for you as the director for that first night?
Expected. I wasn't planning on feeling. I don't know if it was nervous for the actors. I wasn't nervous for myself, and maybe nervous for the audience, or just like the excitement of seeing, kind of like your baby taking its first steps and hoping that the all the guards are in place and everything.
Sure, because as a process, a rehearsal process.
We ac- yeah, we actually put this together in 3 weeks. So we had 2 weeks of just like yeah, getting deep
Wow.
into the script and getting people where they got to go on stage and figuring out why and all that, and then a week of putting the lights in.
So, for those who maybe aren't familiar with the story, what is Crimes of the Heart about?
Three sisters and a first cousin who were all grew up in challenging circumstances. Absent father, mom, things happened, and so they were raised by their grandfather. And as adults, there was a big hurricane that happened about 5 years before the story takes place, and that kind of diverted their lives into new pathways. And then the sisters are coming back and seeing how their relationships can be either what needs to be repaired or what's still intact, or the pick up where we left off 5 years ago after a lot of turmoil.
I got to see this last year at another playhouse, and it's a beautiful story about family and just kind of what it mean to be together in some really dark times. And so there's a heaviness to the Crimes of the Heart.
There is, and the way that like Beth Henley is so brilliant in her writing, that the lightness of it too, just it speaks with the heaviness, but also with this like level of hope, I guess. I don't know. I kept telling the actors to like think about, and what I think about is just when things get so tense in our lives and we're just kind of in this like pressure cooker, and all that you can really do, like there's no place for that pressure to go other than to crack open and let all this space for the light and the something else other than that dark place you've been in to emerge. So it's powerful in that way.
So what drew you to wanting to direct a show like this?
Um, it- uh, the humanity of it, my own personal journey, feeling relatable to each of the characters in what they're internally going through. The poetry of the relationships and the just the sweetness of it, that and also there's a delicacy, I think, that needs to be implemented when approaching this kind of script, and challenging myself to not only bring that out in myself but in the actors as well was a one that I was down to try.
When you mentioned kind of like seeing yourself in all these characters, one of the questions as I was kind of working on this was like, which one of the sisters do you relate to the most? And I was thinking about, from an audience perspective, I was like, depending on where you're at in your life, you can almost see yourself in every single one of them and the journey that they're kind of taking.
Absolutely. And yeah, depending on what point in my life I'm looking at, I'd say I could relate to like Lenny there. She was taking care of old granddaddy. There was a point in my life where my best friend was an old man who lived in a basement. And so and like Meg moved to Hollywood and moved and came back. I spent a year out in California in idealistic early 20s and came back. Um, Babe has by far the most interesting trajectory of everybody. And circumstantially, I luckily cannot fully relate to all of that, but her innocence and her wanting to dissociate from the reality of what is something I think we've all been through at one point in our lives. And then Chick, who's just the loudmouth, really nosy first cousin neighbor, I think we've all probably felt ourselves in a position at one point where we feel like we know better than somebody that we care about does, and want to just give them the lay of the land, even though it's maybe not our place. So it's fun.
And they all are really dealing with trauma in such different ways. Like they all have had a traumatic response. One became the caretaker, one ran away, and one is kind of falling into like the like you said, like almost like the delusion of innocence, you know? And so it's as a psychologist, when I saw the show the first time, and why I'm so excited to see it again is that there is so much to kind of pick up on because they're all having this different responses to the same situation from their past. I really do love that you get to see these different trauma responses from all three of them, and that is kind of one of the pieces to the show that is really kind of like beautiful about it.
I was just thinking about it this morning. Now that I have like more space from it, but it's not unlike the pandemic and not seeing people for that however long of a chunk of time it was, and we did go through like a collective trauma in a way, and just how it like the coming together and how it's just there's more to deal with than I think that anybody realized interpersonally. Food
For
for
sure,
thought.
absolutely. So when you were developing the story as you're kind of getting ready to bring it on stage, what do you feel was like important to highlight from Crimes of the Heart that you wanted to emphasize in the stage
What I really wanted
production?
to emphasize in the stage production was the forgiveness that the sisters found within themselves, for themselves, and within each other as well, and the life that they had grown up with and carried animosity, you know, from with them for so long. I think it's the most beautiful aspect of the play.
And when you are directing a show, do you have a specific process for how you like how you take it from page to screen, or does it kind of change with like each show that you're directing?
I don't have a process locked down necessarily. I do. I Actors are artists, and they're going to know those characters more than I could give them a playing card for. So I we pretty much talk about the truth of what's going on in the story, and I see what they're bringing out, and I just help them get to what they are saying that's already true, but just in a more performative way, I suppose. But yeah, no, it's a very I work very
So
collaboratively.
so very collaborative
Yes.
approach.
Yeah.
It allows each person to like you said, everybody knows their craft. Everyone kind of knows what they're doing. The stage production, the stage designers, and the costumers, and the actors, and you're just kind of the one that's like bringing it all together and steering that ship a little bit.
It's a little different than I've directed in the past. It's because this with Inspired Acting Company, there were more individual like team members than I have experienced in the past. So it like I knew I was steering the ship, but it almost felt like like I was supposed to be in a bunch of other places too. It was nice.
So you're pulling multiple duties here to make sure everything's
Yeah,
going
well,
off.
yeah.
So with this show being a dark comedy, and without spoiling anything, there's kind of an emphasis on the dark. So with this show being kind of a dark comedy with an emphasis on the dark, I don't want to spoil anything. So, but there's quite a darkness to it. Um, how do you go about balancing those two tones? I know part of that is written into the script, but also part of it is through the direction and the actors on stage. So how do you balance those two tones?
I think it came out it comes out natural how I mean like how I balance it in my personal life and how I balance it on stage would be probably the same, but I encourage the like joy and fear live in the same place as in the body with each other. So I kind of just like played a little game with seeing what seems more naturally coming out or what organically came out, and it was interesting within like the dialogue and when the actors were playing and rehearsing, it's almost found that the two exist at the same time. you can say something that's like really, really horrifying, but it's so horrifying that it can't be said in any other way but like hilariously. And I think that that is the it it's in the writing for sure, but with the right kind of commitment to that statement, it just it comes off joyful. I don't know.
I think that what's interesting about that too is that a lot of people don't know that those emotions are quite related to each other in the human body. So, what are you hoping audiences take away from this production of Crimes of the Heart?
I hope that audiences can have a little more grace just with themselves and with each other after seeing a show that deals with really extreme situations and complicated people, and just yeah, just a little bit more compassion for themselves and for one another, and having a great night at the theater, obviously.
Which is super important. Have a great night at the theater.
Right.
Go and enjoy the show. Um, Thank you so much for your time. We've really appreciated talking with you. And we're so excited to see Crimes of the Heart.
Thank you. Can't wait for you to see it.
So, Crimes of the Heart runs at the Inspired Acting Company until September 28th. So, get your tickets now, and we'll see you at the show.